Hey guys, this is Vince. Thanks for watching. This time we have Tara Gerke, who is a registered dietitian, and she's going to be talking about some of her favorite tips when it comes to reading food labels.
Thanks, Vince. Tip number 1 is to start with the serving size. It's important to look at the serving size because all of the numbers on the label correspond to that amount. When you look at the serving size, you also want to take a look at how many servings are in the container. A good example of this is when you're buying a can of soup. Oftentimes, the serving size is 1 cup, yet the can holds 2 servings. So when someone eats the whole can, you would need to multiply all of those calories, fat, protein by 2. Tip number 2 is to don't fear fat. So when you look at a label on a food product and you see a high total fat content, you don't need to worry. As long as the saturated fat and trans fat are low, you're okay. For this example, I'll talk about almonds, which are naturally high in fat. The total fat on a serving size of almonds is 16 grams, yet the total saturated fat is 1 gram and trans fat is 0. So you can assume that the 15 grams of fat that's unaccounted for is coming from mono or polyunsaturated fats, which are healthy for us. So when you see an item with a high total fat, take a closer look at what types of fat are in that product.
So you're saying that fat is okay if it's a healthy fat? So like I can eat an entire tub of almonds and that's totally fine?
Not totally fine. You still want to be aware of the calories you're eating. So even though almonds do contain healthy fat, they are higher in calories. So if you're managing your weight or watching your waistline, consuming a whole tub of almonds would still add up to a lot of calories. Tip number 3 is called the 5 and 20 rule. So on a nutrition fact label, you will see percentages listed on the right-hand side of the column, and these percentages are called the percent daily value. Their original purpose is to be used for folks consuming a 2,000 calorie diet as a guide for how their food contributes to their daily intake. But this is confusing to use because we don't all consume 2,000 calories every single day. When I look at the label, I'm looking at the percentages and only thinking about 2 numbers, 5 and 20. So when you look at the percent, if you see a food that has 5% or lower, let's say of sodium, you can consider that food to be a low sodium food. On the other hand, if you see a 20% or higher, that food can be considered high in that nutrient. Typically, folks are trying to increase their fiber intake, and seeing a 20% or higher number for fiber would be a great choice. Tip number 4 is to choose foods with a short ingredient list. This is an important tip because when you think about choosing healthy foods, if you think about fruits or vegetables, they don't really have many nutrition facts labels because an apple is an apple and broccoli is just broccoli. So when you're shopping for things like peanut butter or salad dressing or other processed items, it's good to look for a short ingredient list that you can recognize and understand. So for peanut butter, for example, this kind, the only ingredient is dry roasted peanuts. What else do you really need? My final tip for the day is to pay attention to the order of ingredients. Not only is it important to look at the ingredients themselves, but the order in which they're listed. So ingredients are listed in descending order based on their weight. The first ingredient in a food is going to be the most predominant. It's the heaviest. So the most important thing to look for is sugar. I don't like to pick an ingredient or a food that has sugar listed as the first or second ingredient. That means it's one of the heaviest out of all the others. One food item to double check for this are cereals or even granola bars. Oftentimes they can be high in sugar. This granola, for example, has oats listed first, followed by tapioca syrup, which is another word for sugar. Okay, so I understand not in the top 1 or 2 for sugar and other different, ways of saying sugar, I guess, as you said. But what about for things like stevia and other sugar substitutes? So artificial sweeteners can be really great for people who are watching their blood sugar or managing diabetes because those sweeteners won't raise your blood sugar like sugar will. But there are some studies out there that show potential harmful effects for sweeteners. So if you're concerned about that, then regular sugar may be better.
Thanks for watching, and I hope you found Tara's tips helpful. If you'd like to see a written form of these tips, go to Tara's blog at www.taratested.wordpress.com, and you can actually see her blog post about this. Thanks.
Thanks. Casual in your kitchen.
Oh, what's up? Didn't see you there. We were just eating peanut butter. Okay. Don't tip toes.
No. I'm just looking at
Be real.
So, the first ingredient on the label is, okay, I can't start myself laughing. Ingredients are listed in descending order on predominance, which is, why can't I say that? What's another way to say that? Woo!
Right.
Way, media!